Hi there, it's Clive here, and I'm here with some Stadia news. Slightly different format than my normal videos. This is sort of a trial run. If you're new to my channel, then welcome. Please subscribe, like, all of that, especially if you like the content. And today what I'm going to be doing is just really updating you on all the Stadia news, of which there is a lot, which if I'd said that about 24 hours ago, then a lot of people would have come down hard on me. But the reality is, as is with all big corporate organizations, when they've got news to announce, they announce it in their own time, not so much piecemeal. And I know the Stadia community and the gaming community want their little tidbits of information, but having worked with a big corporate organization, I just know how they roll, and announcements are much more staggered, slow, and thought through. Anyway, enough of that. We're going to go through all the news, some of which you may be aware of, and some of which hopefully is new to you. And there are some specific UK-centric Stadia news as well, which is quite big and exciting, and perhaps an indication of the impact that Stadia is going to be having. Anyway, without further ado, let's just crack on with the main big announcement that was dropped yesterday by Google. So Google dropped finally, after much clamoring, but I'm sure this was always in their plans anyway, despite all the chattering of the Stadia chat groups and everything. They made a big announcement yesterday. This is what most of the people in the Stadia community have been asking for. Just summarizing what they've done since their launch, which when you sort of compact it down is quite impressive. They've added more great games, 6 titles to Stadia Pro, bought Typhoon Studios, updated Chromecast Ultras so that all the old Chromecast Ultras can play Stadia, rolled out features like Google Assistant and functionality achievements. They delivered a multiplayer first, which is Steam Connect. So you can only do this on Stadia, and I think this is an indication of what we're going to start seeing in more and more games. This notion of using the power of Stadia in a way to do things in a way that you can't do on, say, the consoles and the PC. So that's quite interesting. And obviously, surprise buddies with a second Game Pass. Well, that's fine. The big announcement, though, is here. If we look here, they are launching, or tracking here, as they say, interesting words, but they're tracking more than 120 games coming to Stadia in 2020. 120 games. That's on average, not that it'll be delivered like this or staggered like that. That's like 10 games a month. That's a lot. Now you can speculate, obviously we can speculate on what sort of games they're going to be and whether they're old games, new games, or a mix, of which of course they will be. But interesting on top of that here, and indicative of the power of Stadia really in the gaming market at the moment, they are targeting more than here 10 games in the first half of this year alone will only be available on Stadia when they launch. So basically what they're talking is a timed launch, or a windowed launch, exclusive window, where you'll be able to play that game first and foremost on Stadia before it's rolled out to PC or the other consoles. So that's quite exciting, and the fact that developers and producers are putting their faith in Stadia or being forced to do that, we don't know what those games necessarily are going to be. I think that's quite interesting and quite exciting, and a reason to kind of have Stadia, or to keep up your Stadia Pro, to get access at least to these games, and hopefully they'll be, you know, offered a good price, a good opening launch price to get Stadia users up and running. And of course we'll also be saving time. No downloads, yay. So that's pretty impressive. And when we think about it, as I say, they're not going to be 10 games every month. Games tend to be launched on a sort of on key quarters, so end of March, beginning of April. So for instance, Doom Eternal, which I'll come to in a minute, is launching end of March, and some games were scheduled for beginning of April, which ironically have moved now to September, which is the other key quarter. They usually have that kind of quarter one, which is sort of April time, around then, just before April or just after April, and then September, and then the holiday season, so November and into Christmas. So those tends to be the key launch dates for games. But general, that's quite exciting. But in addition to that, yes, there's more, as they say. They will be supporting here this is in Q1 and beyond. Do they mean, is their quarter January or is their quarter April? Let's just say Q1 is now. I'll check that for you anyway. But support for 4K gaming on the web. So people are saying, can I play 4K through my browser? There you go. If you've got 4K gaming monitor, then good luck to you. That'd be good. Further assistant functionality, which will be quite useful. That'd be interesting. Additional support for Android phones. So this had been rumored anyway, that they'd been testing this anyway, sort of in the backgrounds on random Android phones, and then taking the functionality away, and people hadn't really realized. So now it's concrete. They're going to be rolling this out. So that'll be interesting. And then, of course, here, wireless gameplay on the web through the Stadia controller. So I know that's quite popular. Although, just a little kind of side issue here. I've been playing, when I play on my Chromecast Ultra with my wireless controller, so the wireless controller is connected by the Wi-Fi, I have noticed some crackling in the audio. And it only happens when I play on the Chromecast with my Stadia controller wirelessly. When I'm wired through the browser, my phone, is no issue. And I did look it up, and it does seem to be a bit of an issue. So hopefully they're going to resolve that. I don't know if you've had similar problems, but let me know in the comments below if you have. So there you go. I mean, that's quite a lot of, sort of a big announcement, and a lot of it happening quite soon as well in this sort of first quarter. And as I say, what they'll be doing also, we're going to know within the next, I'd say, probably the next week or so, what the first games for Stadia Pro are in February. So there's 3 games that the Pro subscribers get. So that's going to be interesting. So what of those games? Well, there's some news on the games front. So I'm just going to go and check let's have a look at my agenda here. Doom Eternal launch. So that's scheduled for 20th of March 2020. You can check out the YouTube video for that. That looks exciting. Doom Eternal, I think, I'm sort of getting a bit bored of Destiny 2. What? Yeah, no, true. A bit bored of Destiny 2 on the old Stadia, but it'd be interesting to have like an action-packed, high-fad, first-person shooter like Doom Eternal launching. So that's 20th of March 2020. Other announcements are the Marvel delay. So Marvel's Avengers game, that was due to come out, I think, in sort of April. Anyway, that's been delayed until September the 4th, 2020. So that's that sort of latter quarter I told you about. So, and Cyberpunk as well. I know a lot of people were looking forward to Cyberpunk, which was expected to launch on April the 16th. There's been so much hype about this game, but inevitably, we're not going to launch until September the 17th. So that's a 5-month delay there. But, if the game needs it, my experience, I've worked in the gaming industry before, believe it or not. Sometimes it's best to bite the bullet and give the game the polish it needs. People forgive you if you deliver a good game. They will not forgive you if you deliver a game that is, buggy or missing lots of kind of aspects or features of it. I'll just put that there for now. Anyway, so there you go. So a lot of exciting games being launched. And just to go back on those 120 games that Google Stadia mentioned that they're launching, there is some speculation that a lot of them are going to be Ubisoft games because of the Uplay subscription that's coming, and whether that covers off at least 100 games. So, but even if it does, it fills out the library of Stadia, and so within 12 months you're going to see a pretty good library of games sitting there, plus all the main launches. If we look at the official Stadia Reddit here, if you look down the side, you can see here these are all the new games that are coming out. So it's not going to be all old games. We know there's lots of new games, and hopefully they're going to be timed. Some of these will be timed exclusives. Some of them will be hopefully day on date with the main console and PC launches. Other news, that part of the Stadia community is organizing a 40-car race in Grid. So if you're not aware, and again, one of the features of exclusive to Stadia is their ability to do things like this, and you can have a 40-car race. That's 40 people online racing in one single race, and it's the power of the cloud that allows you to do that. You can't really do that on a console or even on PC to that extent, to all the detail that you need, all the rendering to be able to deliver 40 cars in a race. Anyway, so to promote that, the fact that that part of Grid, 40-car race in Grid, is exclusive to Stadia, the Stadia community is organizing a big event here, as you can see. So this is a shout out to Cloud Gaming X. They do a lot of great Stadia videos, and Generation Stadia. And this is from Stadia Source, which has loads and loads of news. They're really quick. If anything news comes out about Stadia, they're blogging about it. So check them out, stadiasource.com. Check out Cloud Gaming X and Generation Stadia as well. Subscribe to those guys. Anyway, they are organizing the community event Grid 40-car race on Stadia, and this is taking place on January the 18th here, 2 p.m. PST and 5 p.m. EST. And the other one, so that's by Cloud Gaming X on January the 18th, and Generation Stadia's race is on January the 5th, 2 p.m. PST and 5 p.m. EST. Check that out. I think if you're into car racing, this is unique to Stadia, and I think it's very exciting, and good on those guys for organizing that. That's what you kind of need. When Stadia does something which is sort of exclusive, as it were, then it's well worth checking that out. I'm jumping about here, but I just realized here that Elder Scrolls, so they made an announcement a few days ago, and about the new chapter in Elder Scrolls Online, which we know is coming to Stadia. And interesting, on their Twitter account here, it just says PC, Mac, PS4, Xbox One. Don't worry, because I did find on the, here we are, this is the Stadia YouTube page, and they're announcing here the Elder Scrolls Online Dark Heart of Skyrim coming to Stadia soon. That's very exciting. Whether it's coming in June, so we've got a May the 18th and June the 2nd for consoles. So there's no indication of when it's going to be available for Stadia, but it is coming because Stadia have posted, this is the Stadia YouTube channel I'm looking at here, as you can see. They've posted the trailer here. Right, so the other thing, let's talk about working with the developers in order to, deliver, was it 10 timed exclusives? It means that they're working pretty close with a lot of developers, and one of those developers in which we already know they had an exclusive, or at least rumored to be a timed exclusive, was GYLT, which is a great game from fabulous developer Tequila Works. I love Rhyme, made me cry, that game. And GYLT was excellent. Anyway, the producer was recently talking about working with Stadia and what a sort of breeze it was as, sort of hands-off producers. And he was saying how there's lots of features coming out on Stadia in the next sort of few months, which is hinted at in that Stadia announcement, which is going to blow people's minds. So I think, the fact that you could play 4K in your browser and things like that, and Google Assistant, and some more features that I think we'll see in some of these timed exclusives. I would speculate there are some Stadia exclusive elements, like the Grid car racing element that I talked about. So anyway, that's useful to check out. I'll leave a link to that interview with the producer of GYLT. He talks about some exciting things that are coming to Stadia. Meanwhile, back in Blighty, as we say, I just want to touch on a couple of things. It has been announced by BT here. So BT, if you're in the UK, you know who BT is. If you're not in the UK, then basically BT is the biggest broadband supplier in the UK. They used to be, back in the day when I was a little boy. I mean, it used to be state run. It used to be the only game in town. Obviously, that was back in the pre-capitalist days. But anyway, BT basically, they run the show when it comes to broadband in this country. They're the main ones. And look, they're doing this amazing deal. Get Stadia with selected packages. And those selected packages are obviously packages that are going to work. I have BT broadband, and I think I have Fast Fiber 2 here. Average speed 67 megabits. and Stadia runs amazing on that. There we are, Stadia Premier Edition, exclusive Chromecast Ultra controller, 3-month Stadia Pro subscription. So you're getting the Stadia Premier Edition if you sign up to BT here. I probably average between 50 to 60 megabits per second on superfast fiber 2, and it works great for me. Again, it's going to be subject to whether you're wiring up your Chromecast Ultra, what your Wi-Fi is like. The BT hub is all right. I mean, most hubs are pretty shonky anyway. I have a few issues with BT now and then, but I think no more than people have issues with, Sky or TalkTalk or Virgin or whatever, the other ones. But I think it's quite exciting, the fact that BT are doing this deal with Stadia, because this really takes it into the mainstream. When you're doing a deal with BT Broadband, it's taking gaming from sort of just the niche kind of element, of all the founders and stuff, into the consciousness of the general public. Because, BT obviously their marketing. I mean, I get leaflets from BT all the time and the posters everywhere. I mean, they are such a massive company in the UK. The fact that they're linking up with Stadia and they're the biggest broadband supplier in this country is big. And when Stadia Stadia base launches, forget Stadia now. Stadia is going to be massive. Any doubters, this is going to blow it out of the water in terms of penetration, market penetration. Anyway, enough of the capitalist talk there. Let's go back and check my news agenda. The other thing, UK-centric as well, is I came across this job. If you are an executive game producer and you live in the UK or London in particular here, executive game producer, Stadia Games Entertainment. Here, as an executive producer at Stadia Games and Entertainment, you'll drive a large-scale game studio in the development and launch of games on Stadia. I worked in the games industry before. I was not an executive producer. I worked on the legal side. But having worked with a lot of executive producers, in some cases, executive producers work with third parties. So some are in-house executive producers, and some work with independent, developers, etc. And I imagine this is really an executive whose task is to work with UK-based developers, of which, of course, there are many big and famous ones. So just interesting. Most of the news that you hear about people are joining the Stadia studios in Montreal and things like that. So it's just interesting to see here that this executive producer role for Stadia Games and Entertainment is based here in London. So, there you go. And so, well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. I've tried to do this sort of as live, so it's probably a bit scattergunnish. I did do a agenda. Anyway, but that's the news. Let me know what you think. I think there's some big, exciting things to come. And now we know that there's 120 games being launched. This lack of news is certainly going to go away. The drought has ended, people. We're going to have a continuous feed of news, I think, from now on. Don't expect it every day. Calm down, relax. There's a lot going on. And again, my experience of working for large corporations, when they make an announcement like tracking 120 games, 10 timed exclusives, that behind that is a massive roadmap, a massive marketing roadmap. And that is just the beginning. That's how corporations work. This is a planned strategic communication. And that is the first part. And that basically is a precursor of what is to come. And there is a long tail of planned announcements, I can guarantee, based on this. This isn't just a random drop of information just to keep the Stadia fanboys on Reddit happy. So stick with it. Things are good. Things are looking up. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, all of that. Put any comments down below. If you'd like me to try this live, for real, let me know, and I might do some regular ones in a sort of podcast style, because that does seem popular. And yeah, I know I'm not original, and you may have heard some of this news, but hey, if you like my style, then get your news from me. Anyway, once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you very, very soon.